Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Save Point Vids presents the definitive Top 10, where we bring to you our top 10, whatever it is that we want to talk about in relation to the video game industry. Today's episode is going to be all about the top 10 PlayStation 4 exclusives. If you like the sound of that, please consider subscribing at youtube.com/savepointvids. Give it a thumbs up, and most importantly, please tell a friend. This is a passion project, and we always love and appreciate the support. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Infamous Second Son is an action-adventure video game developed by Sucker Punch Productions and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. It is the third installment in the Infamous series. The game was released worldwide on March 21st, 2014. The player controls protagonist Delsin Rowe as he possesses superpower abilities that players use in combat and when traveling across the city. The story follows Delsin as he fights the Department of Unified Protection in a fictionalized version of Seattle. Over the course of the game, Delsin acquires new abilities and becomes either good or evil as players' choices influence his morality. It deserves to be on this list for its gameplay, which is dynamic, and its visuals and design, which at the time really showed off what the PlayStation 4 could do. However, it cannot be higher on this list because of its binary morality system, which even in 2014 was very outdated, and its repetitive side missions. Think SpiderMan 2 from the PlayStation 2 and you've got a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. The story itself was a step back from the first two games in the franchise, and Delsin just isn't as interesting as Cole, and for that reason, Infamous Second Son lands at number 10 on the list of the best PS4 exclusives. Bloodborne is an action role-playing game developed by From Software and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. It was released worldwide in March of 2015. Bloodborne follows the player's character, the Hunter, through the decrepit, Gothic, Victorian-era-inspired city of Yharnam, whose inhabitants have been inflicted with an abnormal bloodborne disease, hence the title. Ultimately attempting to find the source of the plague, the player's character unravels the city's intriguing mysteries while fighting various enemies. Bloodborne deserves to be on this list for its gameplay alone, which is faster than the Souls games that inspired it, but still has a high degree of skill and difficulty needed to complete it. The world is also one that begs to be explored. Inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft and Bram Stoker, this game oozes atmosphere and high production value. However, some criticism was directed at its technical performance at launch, which was improved with post-release updates. Despite all of that, the game still enjoys a very hardcore and dedicated fan base, and it's almost assured that a sequel is in development for the PlayStation 5. And so that puts Bloodborne at number 9 on the 10 best PS4 exclusives. Ratchet Clank is a complete remake of the original title, developed by Insomniac Games of the same name, released on the PlayStation 2 in 2012. It follows the adventures of the titular characters as they run, jump, and most importantly, shoot their way through the various stages on their way to complete the mission. At its core, the game is a 3D platformer, but just leaving it there is doing the game a huge disservice. What really sets it apart are the various weapons that Insomniac Games is known for. For example, you'll use a pixelizer, which, like the name suggests, turn your enemies into an 8-bit version of themselves. And of course, we can't mention this game without talking about its production values. I know it's been said time and again, but this game truly does look like a Pixar movie come to life. It's beautiful, even in 2019, and also the interplay and dialogue between our two main characters is top-notch. They banter back and forth, and you really get a sense of their relationship through that dialogue. And for that reason, Ratchet & Clank lands at number 7 on our top list of the PS4 top 10 exclusives. Until Dawn, developed by Supermassive Games, is a campy teen horror and slasher flick that you get to control. Released in 2015, it follows the lives of 8 young adults as they retreat to a secluded cabin high up in the mountains to celebrate the memory of a friend who passed away the year prior. The game has all the cliche characters you'd expect: the pretty girl, the star athlete, exes, and more. However, the characters aren't as alone up there as they originally thought and end up being pursued by a mysterious figure. You'll be put in all sorts of different scenarios, and it's up to the player to navigate them to safety if you so choose. The crux of the game is made of decisions that ultimately alter the path of the story. Everything you do has a consequence, and because of that, the game begs for multiple playthroughs to see all of the different endings, which characters live or die is literally left in your hands. Turn up the sound, turn down the lights, and experience one of the PlayStation 4's best exclusives. Persona 5 is a traditional Japanese role-playing game developed internally at Atlus. Released in Japan in September 2016 and everywhere else in April of 2017, it follows Joker in a modern-day Tokyo right after he transfers to Shujin Academy after being falsely accused of assault. The game is split into two distinct parts. The first is a relationship sim where you'll meet and develop your connections with other characters that give you, among other things, stat boosts. You do this by conversing, participating in side missions, and the like. The second is where you'll enter dungeons, which are actually the minds of other characters in the story, and engage in puzzle solving and combat. Unlike the previous game, Persona 4, the dungeons in this entry are not randomly generated. Each one has a theme that relates to the character you're engaging with. From a production standpoint, the game still looks great. Everything is super stylized from the menus to how combat plays out. The audio is mostly well done, but there are a few cringeworthy characters who pop up from time to time. This game will take well over 100 hours to complete, so if you want a game that you can really sink your teeth into, there isn't anything better on the PS4. And that's why Persona 5 comes in at number 6 on the list of the PlayStation 4's best exclusives. Horizon Zero Dawn is an action role-playing game developed by Guerrilla Games and released in 2017. It is Guerrilla's first new IP since Killzone was released in 2004. The game is set in the 31st century and follows main protagonist Aloy as she searches for clues about her past. What unravels is something that I dare not spoil here, but rest assured, the story is full of twists and turns that you'd come to expect. What I will say though is that civilization lives in what amounts to tribes scattered across the landscape. Machines, or the giant-looking robot dinosaurs you see, now dominate the Earth. Most are friendly, however, there is something called the derangement that is causing the machines to become actively hostile towards humans. Gameplay is balanced between taking quests, exploring your surroundings, upgrading your equipment, and combat. You'll use Aloy's bow and arrows to take down most enemies, which can be altered to inflict electricity damage, set up tripwires, among other things. The combat is fast and fluid and really sells the fact that Aloy is an empowered and capable character that knows what she's doing. The world is desolate, but still seems to have a history surrounding it. The overall lore and world that Guerrilla Games has created is one that I cannot wait to get back to. Horizon Zero Dawn is number 5 on the list of PlayStation 4's best exclusives. Uncharted 4: Thieves End is the culmination of hero Nathan Drake's story. Developed by Naughty Dog, best known for this series, as well as The Last of Us and the Jak and Daxter games, is a third-person action-adventure game inspired by the pulp action novels of the 1940s and 50s. Released in 2016, it was met with rave reviews that were matched with commercial success. You follow Nathan for the proverbial one last job before he decides to hang up his hat for good. What follows is a game about family, love, and learning to let go. And while the gameplay is good, what really makes this game shine, and the series as a whole, are the characters. Series regulars Nathan, Sully, and Elena are as good as ever. Even newcomer Sam Drake, Nathan's older brother, played by industry vet Troy Baker, is a solid addition to the cast. You really get a sense that these characters are friends who have a history with each other and have a place in the world that Naughty Dog has created. It's something that most developers can only dream of when creating their titles, and truly is a benchmark that has yet to be exceeded by any of them. With the game currently sitting at number 1 in terms of sales for PS4 exclusives, I imagine we'll see more from Uncharted before it's all said and done. And that's why Uncharted 4: A Thief's End is number 4 on the PlayStation 4's best exclusives. Detroit Become Human was originally released on May 25, 2018 by Sony Interactive Entertainment and developed by Quantic Dream. The plot follows 3 androids, Kara, who escapes the owner she was serving to exploit her newfound sentience, Connor, whose job it is to hunt down sentient androids called deviants, and Marcus, who devotes himself to releasing other androids from servitude. To say anything more would spoil the finer details of the plot, but if you've ever played a Quantic Dream game before, you know that the lives and fates of these 3 characters will cross and diverge depending on your decisions. The gameplay is serviceable and certainly better than Quantic Dream's previous efforts, but it is no means anything to write home about. The real reason you would want to play this title is for the character development, plot, and to see how your decisions affect the overall progression of the story. Just like Until Dawn, another game on this list, this title begs to be played again to see how differently things could have turned out. And at the end of the day, the game makes you question what it truly means to be human, and that's enough for this title to land at number 3 on our list of the best PS4 exclusives. God of War is a soft reboot/sequel to the original series that launched on PS2 in 2005. It still follows the exploits of the titular Kratos as he and his son Atreus must descend to the top of the highest peak in the 9 realms to spread the ashes of his wife. Ditching the world of Greek mythology and instead opting for a dive into Norse mythology, this game shakes up the formula that Sony Santa Monica created over a decade ago. You'll still battle enemies of all shapes and sizes, but instead of the Chains of Chaos from previous entries, you'll use the Leviathan Axe, a weapon that can be used, like you'd imagine, with one exception. You can actually throw the axe to target enemies at a distance and recall it Thor style. There is not one weapon that just feels as good as this. The satisfying sound and feeling you get when you recall the axe is something that truly needs to be experienced. Kratos, which in previous games was a one-note character that was always shouting and knew nothing but rage and fury, was actually given a real depth and much-needed character development. Throughout the course of your journey, you'll see Kratos slowly embrace his role of a more loving father towards his son. It truly is great to see the evolution of this character and one that should be applauded. Oh, and did I mention recalling the axe? God of War is number 2 on our list of the PS4's best exclusives. Shouldn't come as a surprise that Marvel's Spider-Man is the best PS4 exclusive. The way that Batman Arkham Asylum defined what a comic game could be, Marvel's Spider-Man takes that and turns everything up to 11. While I won't bore you with the details of the plot, as most everyone knows the origins of our web-slinging hero, Insomniac Games has created a Spider-Man universe that can truly stand toe-to-toe with other iterations of those in comics, movies, and TV. You'll upgrade your abilities by earning experience from completing missions, pretty standard fare, but you'll also unlock new Spider-Man suits that each have their own special abilities. Do you want to have the same suit that was in the Avengers Infinity War? How about the classic suit from the comics? They are all here and more. So what is the real reason that this game lands at the top spot of our best PS4 exclusives? The web slinging just feels that damn good. You get a real sense of scale as you're attaching yourself to buildings while zipping through the concrete jungle of New York City. The momentum the developers create by continually propelling you forward is a welcome addition. And while I won't spoil the plot, the game certainly sets itself up for at least one sequel, if not an entire franchise. And now that Sony has acquired Insomniac Games, it's only a matter of time before we see what our favorite webhead is up to next. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Save Point Vids presents the definitive top 10 PlayStation 4 exclusives. Please let us know what you think, what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with. Feel free to drop a comment below. Again, let us know what your thoughts were, what we got right, what you got wrong. Feel free to tweet at us at SavePointJosh or at SavePointVids. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. We do several podcasts a week, and most importantly, please tell a friend about us. We could not do this without you. And until next time, everybody stay safe.